Ladies and gentlemen, I am really honored here to welcome you to this important national convergence with religious and traditional leaders on combating hate speech under the theme promoting religious tolerance and social cohesion in partnership with religious and traditional leaders. This convergence is not only timely, but necessary. The Gambia has, for many decades, been known as a country of peace, a country of tolerance, and religious harmony. Ours is a society where Muslims, Christians, and adherents of traditional African religions have coexisted for generations in mutual respect. And in many Gambian households, interfaith families are the norm. Muslims and Christian siblings, children of mixed marriages, and communities were bound together, and they have been bound together not just by faith, but by kinship, neighborhood, and friendship. This is the Gambia many of us were born into, especially those in the greater Banjul area. This is a fact. A Gambia where your neighbor's faith, your neighbor's tribe, or political opinion never determine how you treated them. Unfortunately, this social fabric is being strained. And we are witnessing worrying trends, increasing polarization, the growth of intolerance, and disturbing rise in hate speech, often cloaked in religious and sometimes tribal rhetoric. Since the start of our country's transitional justice process in 2017, significant strides have been made to consolidate democracy, good governance, and respect for human rights. Yet, these very gains are now under threat from hate speech.
I commend the National Human Rights Commission for its continued leadership in promoting human rights, social harmony, and inclusive dialogue in the Gambia. Ladies and gentlemen, hate speech is not free speech. It undermines human rights, exacerbates division, and erodes the very fabric of democratic societies. In 2021, the UN General Assembly adopted a resolution on promoting interreligious and intercultural dialogue and tolerance in countering hate speech. The Gambia, like the rest of the world, faces concerns over spread of hate speech. Hate speech threatens to derail the Gambia's democratic journey, including a transitional justice process to restore democracy, the rule of law and human rights, and secure peace. It also attacks vulnerable groups, including women, who are many times the victims of hate speech.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Distinguished religious and traditional leaders, on behalf of Gambia Super Islamic Council, I extend our sincere appreciation to the National Human Rights Commission and the UN for organizing this timely national convergence on combating hate speech. Hate speech in all its forms, whether religious, ethnic, political, or cultural, possesses a serious threat to social cohesion. It breeds division, fuels conflict, and undermines the harmony we have long cherished in our nation. As religious leaders, we bear a great moral and spiritual responsibility to confront all forms of incitement, verbal abuse, and narratives that promote hatred and intolerance. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Khairukum ahsanukum akhlaqa." The best among you are those with the best character. And the Almighty Allah says, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ husna, and speak kindly to people. Islam has prohibited cursing, insulting, backbiting, gossip, and engaging in falsehood, as these acts cause harm and division within the society.
I want to stand on existing protocols that have already been reflected. Jesus once was asked, "Who is my neighbor?" In Gambia, lu gën a am doole si dëkk bi fii mooy sa dëkkandoor. Kan mooy sa dëkkandoor? Ndik sa kër si taakee balaa sa mbokk yi ñëw, balaa sa waa diine ñëw, sa dëkkandoor mooy ñëw dimbale la fay sa safara. So si nekkee mënuñu nekk si jàmma, naka la ñoo mën a defee loolu? Looloo tax ñun yépp ñu ne nañ leen am lu ñoo ooyee Gambia Interreligious Council. Let us relook ourselves. We all come from Abraham. Islam comes from the lineage of Ishmael. Christianity comes from the lineage of Isaac. ñoom ñaar luñ bokka? ñoo bokka papa. So man ak Imam Isa suñ toogee lan lañ nekka? Mag ak raka ñu ngi xeex. Why are we fighting? Why are we spreading wrong hatred for each other? Let us be reminded. When I look at each one of you that is here, male, female, Imam, Bishop, Reverend, I see a human being. Let us be reminded. Jesus said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Jesus further says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Let it not be said that I have said something that is hateful, but let it be said, what comes from my mouth and what comes through my actions is that which will propagate peace.
It is important to be reminded that we are here to collectively address a pressing dilemma that poses threat to our stability of our society. Hate speech is not just a source for discord and disharmony, but a clear violation of human rights. It is therefore very clear that when we fail to address hate speech, we become complicit in the weakening of our sense of unity as a nation. Everyone here, therefore, has a collective responsibility to ride on our individual wisdom to combat this scourge. The greatest irony of our time is that while the rise of digital communication has opened the door to a more progressive world, it has simultaneously provided a platform for hate speech. This transformation has turned harmful words into powerful weapons capable of damaging communities and exacerbating tension. With this in mind, I would like to conclude on a hopeful note, emphasizing that our gathering today can serve as a foundation for collaboratively devising strategies and commitments to combat hate speech. Thank you all. I use this opportunity to declare the convergence open. Thank you.
When you look at the billboard there, it says fostering social cohesion through interfaith dialogue and action. This dialogue is not necessarily about religion. It's about hate speech. So my presentation is going to be based mostly on the findings of the 2024 study on the prevalence of hate speech in the Gambia. During the study, we realized that yes, indeed, there is a prevalence of hate speech. And the hate speech is mostly directed, or it comes from one, politics, religion, ethnicity, gender, and migrant groups. Why isn't this being addressed? Our findings also realize that we do not have the laws that adequately address the issue of hate speech. So we have gaps there. Now let's look at hate speech together. Munem hate speech. Since in the morning we've been talking about hate, but Munem hate speech. What does hate speech mean, to put it simply? Any kind of communication, whether it's in speech, whether it's in writing, whether it's the way we treat people, we behave towards people, that belittles, makes them small, tutil on it, or incites violence against a person or a group based on their identity, whether they are black or white, whether they are Mandinka or Fula, whether they are Christian or Muslim, whether they are man or woman, male or female, based on their identity. Now, if hate speech is not addressed, it can lead to real-world discrimination and even worse, violence. We found out that hate speech is widespread and increasing in the Gambia. The main perpetrators include political actors, religious leaders, and social media influencers. Our social media, when you look at it, you see a lot of instances of hate speech and dangerous speech. Now, we have also found that religious intolerance is among the top 3 most cited forms of hate speech. And over 35% of our respondents identified religious leaders as key perpetrators of hate speech. And we would wonder, how comes? These are the very people who are supposed to preach harmony. How comes that 35% of our respondents are saying that our religious leaders are contributors to the prevalence of hate speech? As religious leaders, what can we do? We must begin by making sure that we are not the conduits, we are not the speakers of hate speech. We must also try in our sermons to promote inclusive interpretations of religious texts, hold interfaith dialogue. Bishop is indicating that is it tomorrow or the next few days they are going to have something of that kind of nature. We must all try to champion and promote that. Education. Some people are purveyors of hate speech simply because they don't know different. Thank you.
The Gambia, in addition to having domestic laws, is also a party to several instruments. It's a party to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights and some other international instruments, and even at the regional level, is also a party to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. And also because the state is the primary duty bearer. So the state here, we are referring to the government and all government institutions, government agencies, and government agents. They are the duty bearer. And as a result, the responsibility is on them to promote and protect human rights, including protecting its citizens against hate speech. So the states are the duty bearers, and therefore, they have the main responsibility to address and counter hate speech. So hate speech is not only a national problem, it's a global phenomenon, and that is why you have it at the global level. You have instruments that really speaks against hate speech and encourage governments to have domestic legislations within their domestic system to be able to respond and address to issues of hate speech. So it's very important that we bear that in mind as well. And these are some of the key international instruments. And the Gambia is a party to all of them. And they provide protection against hate speech, but they at the same time promote the right to freedom of expression. So because really, in as much as governments should fight against hate speech, that is not a license to stifle dissent or to go against freedom of expression. So the Universal Declaration for Human Rights, for example, guarantees the equality of everybody. So where there is equality, then there will be little or no room for discrimination, because discrimination is one of the bases for hate speech. We also have the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The Gambia is a party to this convention. You have the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, because hate speech is what perpetuates genocide as well. But also at the regional level, we have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So all these instruments contain provisions that protect the rights of individuals, but also that protects individuals from hate speech. And some of the provisions are contained in Article 19 of the UDHR. If you look at it, for example, Universal Declaration, it talks about the right to freedom of opinion and expression. So we have the right to freely express our opinion and to freely say what we want to say. But if you look at Article 19 of the ICCPR, though it recognizes that right as well, but it has provided a restriction, or others will call it a limitation, meaning that yes, in as much as your right to freedom of speech is guaranteed, you must make sure that that right does not transcend by trying to target the reputation or tarnish the reputation of another person. Article 20 of the ICCPR also too prohibits advocacy of national, racial, or religious hatred. So there cannot be advocacy against a person of a particular nationality or against a person of a particular religion, because these are the protected identities that we spoke about earlier. So you must not advocate for them to be wiped out. So advocacy to incite violence in those instances is strictly prohibited by the ICCPR. Then, in addition to the international legal framework, we also have the domestic legal framework. The 2024 study reveals some gaps as far as Gambian law is concerned by revealing the inadequacy of the laws in terms of having express provision that speak to hate speech. But if you look at the several provisions in several laws, including the Constitution, you can say that they are indirectly trying to respond to issues relating to hate speech. The Constitution, for example, guarantees the right to freedom of expression, but the Constitution also provides a limitation, a restriction, if you look at Section 25(4), that in as much as your right to speech is guaranteed, you must remember that that right is subjected to the sovereignty and integrity of the Gambia, national security, public order, decency or morality, or in relation to contempt of court. So it means that you must not say something that would lead to undermining the sovereignty of the Gambia.
My question is directed towards who interprets the law and who applies it. We are religious leaders here, yes, but most of the time when these crimes of hate speech come, we end up in the police station. Do the police know these laws? Do they know how to interpret them? Because sometimes they go on emotions and then maybe who you know, and they begin to cover up instead of bringing justice. So my question is, who interpret these laws and who will implement them? That's the first question. Second, you made mention about intention of the perpetrators. The second question is, how do you know the intentions of the perpetrators? Maybe sometimes they don't even have any intention. People are using them. They give them money and say, go and say this, or go and do this.
As far as Gambian law is concerned, our judiciary is tasked with that responsibility, the courts. And this includes the Kadi courts, and of course the courts that we have from the magistrates' courts, the district tribunals, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. They are responsible of that. All others can just speak to their opinion as to what they think the law is, and this includes lawyers. But at the end of the day, the final determination of what the law is actually lies with the courts. And you also asked about how do we know the intention of the person? Because when laws are created, especially criminal offenses, the law will highlight elements that need to be established. And it is those elements that will prove whether you intended what you did or otherwise. So that is also regulated by law. For example, what amounts to hate speech has several characteristics, and we have looked at all those characteristics. So once those characteristics are present, the presumption is that you have intended the consequences of what you have said. And as a result, that will be the basis for a determination by a court. And the issue of the police, because it's a new law, there is the need to have continuous capacity building, not only for the police, but for the citizenry as well, so that they are aware about these laws, and also they know what the elements of these laws are. So that way, they are better able to guide their actions and try to make sure that they are not found wanting.
Nim dinamo be diamula fendo la mi alonko atebe dino min kono abole fokam. But I history le quote na min tambita non kuno. For an example, jalam batula. Still molbe kere min ka jalam batu. So ninga itandi ko kila jalam batula ay diamundi le pure bo jalam bato ya ala damma batu. Fo bi jalam batula sing nsamba no kiti wala ka itandi ko I hate speech leke against my religion. Abarak.
As far as we are not uttering statements that is bringing these people to disrepute, that will not amount to hate speech. So preaching and trying to change the minds of other people to join your group or religion, as the case may be, is not among the instances that will occasion hate speech, as far as I know. But then where you decided to utter statements that will incite violence against them, that will cause discrimination, then that will be outside what is permissible as far as preaching is concerned. But we have to be very clear that the law is not here to outlaw preaching, either from the Muslim community or the Christian community. So that should be very clear. We must always be guided by the elements of what constitute hate speech as far as those provisions are concerned.
Ndolde Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat nka katale mba kataka wati dunia be kono pour ka kairo sabatindi ka bunda nani londi bunda lo ngebonde alqur'ano kono ka ajeko ka itandi ko tumadoni bulata wol noma kairo be sabatilale ndamalu tema Gambia alfalu fenjama meno be sirin jang ya lonne kunu ñim problème o man na jang man soto bari bi asoto tale woto kasi ka ala ko kacha akumata bakele bari ko mi ngabunda nano men foko ntolu katama wala folo alqur'ano ko men fola ikhraha fi din no compulsion forcete je dino kono woto akumata bakele fulanjama wala mu e kana molu la alolu ne menu ka jalangolu kumandi menu ka dolu batu men manke alati kane la jalangolu nende mune wo bunda sama nyongoti odo ila sabili rabbika bil hikmati wal mawizati al hasanati isi kumandiro ke Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala la silo kan ya ke ning nyamengola hakilola ani silola men beteata men nyinyata oto wole mu dialogue katu alqur'ano ya afuko ali molu kawande jalam batol bula ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kilingo batu bari mbakela nyaadile ning lota na mimbaro don ko jalam batu lalu imu kafirolti ala jawolem inyanta halakile nyante kelate nyante bala nyante kelate nyante kelaten is hate speech nani nyawolem lakum dinu ko wali adin ninga be fo imanson woto be tara Gambia ko no jammomo ya ala dino noma.
The topic for discussion is the role of religious and traditional leaders in addressing hate speech. I have on my left Pastor Forbes of Abiding Word Ministries. Also to my right, I have Sheikh Al-Haji Omar Bojan of the Supreme Islamic Council. Yeah, you are welcome. And then on my far right, I have Chief Alpha Khan of Jokadu District. So thank you very much. So it's very balanced here. During the discussions, I think what came out very clearly, and also in the studies, that our religious leaders and our traditional leaders play a very important role in everything that we do. I think it was the bishop who said that sometimes the powers that you have, you don't even know that you have it. Gambia is still a very religious and traditional society. I think this is what we're saying. And we listen to our religious leaders. We listen to our traditional leaders, from our alcalos to the chiefs. This is how we are structured as a society. We know that there is an emerging threat within our society. the Gambia was seen as one country. But unfortunately, over the years, things have changed. There are red flags that we must address. And the red flags are showing that we are becoming an intolerant society. And the drivers are people, not all, but people using the name of religion to bring division, people using the name of tribe to bring division, people using politics to bring division. But remember, and as I said, it is the religious leaders who can actually stop. They can change the narrative. They can stop people within their communities and the traditional authorities. They can preach peace. Pastor Forbes, I will give you the floor to start with to talk to us on the role of religious and traditional leaders in addressing hate speech. So, Pastor Forbes, the floor is yours.
I feel happy because I think every sector of life has its uniqueness. And so if the doors are closed this afternoon, we are by ourselves. So we can talk to ourselves because we understand ourselves and we know our challenges. Everything we know in life, fellow religious leaders, every cause is small, but the consequence is always big. In anything, you slap me, I keep quiet, you know that till you die, I owe you a slap. And you don't know how, when, or where. The Gambia, we do not know hate speech. It is not our culture, it is not our custom, dusun ada, dusun chosan, musun your family. My late mother had 3 sisters, I believe. One got married to a Muslim, Sise. So Alaji Aliyu, Alaji Baba, Alaji Cherno, Pals, Ya Ilihadin, they are my blood first cousins. And anything I do in the church, when I turned 50, they came. When I got married, they came. They are my cousins. I cannot fight them. They cannot fight me. When Auntie Ajayi Sise died, we went there. In fact, when Imam Ratib died, I was there because Imam Ratib Joe, because he used to teach at Gambia High School. And we used to chat, me and him. So anything that is rising up to change that, we all must fight it. We must not say it's not touching me, because it will touch you. There is a picture I cannot find, I used to have it, of somebody that was shot in the Liberian War. And there was a stretcher. One side was held by the imam, the other side was held by a reverend with a cloth. The bullet does not know your religion. So whatever seems to be creeping up in our country, we here, the religious leaders, male and female, we should be the ones to stop it. But sometimes the problem comes from us. So hate speech and all that, how are we going to handle it? I believe we must start from here, these we that are here, and the representatives. So I go talk to my church, the imam goes talk to his people, and we speak the truth.
I am honored and privileged to be given this enormous task and in a very important convergence that aims to unite Gambians irrespective of their faith, irrespective of their tribes and other backgrounds. If we want to talk about the roles of the religious leaders in combating hate speech or any other thing that we want to combat as a nation, it is important to reflect on the principle and the founding principles and the guidelines of Islam. Now, first and foremost, we have to be very thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us ability to be able to communicate, to be able to express our views, and also to be able to receive others' expression. There are others, thousands or millions, who are not bestowed with that, best known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So these blessings that we have, the use of tongue, and through other elements, we must be guided in how to institute them. Now, when we look at Sharia, the main essence of Sharia, what is called maqasidu Sharia, the objectives of Sharia is to avoid evil and uphold the human interest. That is the main objective of Sharia. And one of the issues that the Sharia encourages is to preserve human dignity. You should be role models, because there are many people that look up to us. Before we talk, we have to look at what we say, where we say it, and how we say it is very important. The other one, also to teaching through Islamic principles. Whatever we do in the name of Islam, it has to be anchored on Kitab and Sunnah. But if others want to deviate and bring their personal interest, definitely there will be chaos. There is Kitab and Sunnah, and it's very clear. The other thing is leading by example. Religious leaders should lead by example. You are not ordinary people. When you talk, there are many people who listen and they interpret your speeches in different ways. There are many examples that I can also give, but promoting unity and reconciliation is also important. The other thing is speaking out against injustice. Religious leaders should do that, irrespective of who is involved, but the way and the manner prescribed in our religion doctrines.
First of all, I would want to thank the chairman and his team for coming up with this important convergence. This country of ours is very small. We are interrelated. It's a very small country. Anyone you meet, if you discuss with him a little, if you don't know him, you know somebody that he knows. I have seen in this country where people will initiate a WhatsApp group, call themselves insulters, response team. And we are the one that validates them. They call the response team. Nindirila Kafo, Sagakati, Yatoto Bebe. And we listen to them. On Friday prayers, we go to the mosque, or on Sunday, they go to the church. The Imam will give his sermon. From Friday to the next Friday, that should have been a reminder, but nobody speaks about sermons. But let somebody go out there, insult a whole tribe, and we will be amplifying that message, giving him relevance by sharing it. This is what is happening in this country. We celebrate the wrong thing. We glorify it. And that's why they are proud to call themselves as insulters. Imagine, decades back, during our grandparents' time, to insult, it was considered madness. To curse on a tribe was completely madness. You cannot do that. But now, disturbingly, it's been normalized. Let the Imam say, from the Quran, Allah says this and this, or this is hadith. 10 minutes audio. You give it to the Imam to record a 10 minutes audio. And let somebody out there make a 10 minutes audio insulting everybody out there. You will realize that that audio message that is, of insults would be circulating around this country or beyond. Millions, thousands of people will be listening to it. And what will happen is, you as a good Muslim or a good Christian, you heard of what somebody says. Oh, this man is crazy. Let me send it to you. You send it to him. He will also send it to somebody. You start sending it to somebody. When you come to traditional leaders, you see the idea of tradition is in fact fading in this country. Often they call us local authorities, traditional local authorities. But because there is no tradition that we are upholding now they're calling us local authorities. Traditional leaders are more than just upholders of our cultural values. They can be champions of peace by using their influence to promote peace and dialogue. Hate speech
is not just a legal issue, it is a moral and societal crisis. As custodians of tradition and community, we must rise above silence and apathy. Let this conference be a turning point where we reaffirm our commitment to peace, dignity, and unity. Together we can restore the values that define us as Gambians and ensure that smiling coast comes once again. Thank you.
Kuma jawo kafo dino Islam dino malla fala fere dino miyala bata altalale sibagatun ilahiyatun rabbaniyah la sharqiyah wala gharibiyah al malla fala fere nimbata min fola ngamwele altalla min fo qulu linasi husna kuma kan do fo moliye molu amang boda soto molbe kila sallallahu alaihi wasallam atel fanan kote nite lata ko ala sotota lulla mon sotota isa kuma fo mimu carrot wala yede
de gon nañ ci social media bi Human Rights Commission amna ci sen advocates yi ñi advocate li ñu wax gay marriage wala lesbians lolu dañ ko wax trop legi ndax yow sa diine mi ngam daf la jangal ne gay marriage ak li lesbian baaxut so taxawé di wone lolu ndax lolu dañ ko wax ne hate speech ndax nekkul ne human rights dañ bugga écrire pour ñu mëna aar seen boppa pour ñu mëna dugal agenda buñ bugga lolu is a very important place bi nga xam ne all the religious leaders dañ wara bàyyi xel lolu waxuma ne human rights ñu koy def waaye nekkoon na ci social media bi ne ñu ne Human Rights Commission they are advocating for her to have an act at the parliament bi nga xam dafa support lesbians ak gay marriage lolu wax nañ ko
National Human Rights Commission musuta advocate for gay marriage lolu na leer nañ man toog naa suma office suma yaay call ma mu ne ma dañ ko call ne ko maa ngi àndaa suma commissioner si ñu nga dem ca baro pour wax ko ne na legitimate gay marriage ma ne ko lii de si maa ngi ko soog a dégg waaye dama laa wax rek ne soo gisee ñuy wax misinformation disinformation ak mistrust loolu la suñoo wax mbiri non discrimination waaye li ma bëgg a wax rek mooy comme que waxtaante yaa ko laajte bi dafa direct National Human Rights Commission musuta advocate for gay marriage or lesbian marriage loolu la pour ngeen dégg ko.
Thank you very much. That's a good answer. Yes.
I want to focus on solutions and remedies. I share all the positive sentiments that have been shared in this forum. Very important. I'm a personal, aggressive advocate of religious tolerance. I'm not going to touch on that. Religious leaders denounce hate speech and don't contribute to it. Period. I want to make two specific points in terms of remedies. In a PIRA, the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, their mandate is to monitor content of radio stations. Content. Okay? There are radio stations in this country that are notorious for broadcasting hate speech. PURA needs to be engaged. One, there are fueling problem in the country. Two, the Minister of Information is the authority responsible for licensing radio stations. Therefore, they have duty to monitor the conduct of radio stations and warn them where necessary. And if they don't heed, withdraw their license, period. Otherwise, I personally will draw a conclusion that government is contributing to fueling hate speech. Thank you.
We know media has a role to play. They are also culprit in this thing, this menace that we are talking about. We know politicians also, they contributed a lot. And perhaps religious, according to the percentages, statistics show that religious leaders also they've also participated. Let's say, for example, if the statistics says that high percentage is religious leaders, and if we look at the respondent, we don't see them there. What would they say? We will say the research is biased. Because the respondent who were there, none of the religious leaders were there specifically. You only choose the media and the CSO. They could be biased. They will not admit that we are part of the problem. But the research, fortunately, give the highest percentage. The results give high percentage to politicians. So I am saying, if such research is being conducted, your sampling, let it be proportionate, especially if people who actually matter in this thing, they have to be engaged.
Actually, the sampling, we did random sampling from all regions, but we have included religious leaders, we have included ustazes, we have included students from the Arabic schools, students from everywhere. So it cuts across all demographics in the country. It's just that when you read the report, we had to keep the identity of our respondents a secret. So you will not see, for example, Mr. X, Imam of this place, but rest assured that we included everybody. And even in the definition of hate speech, when you read the report that is just about to be validated tomorrow, you will find out that we made reference to the UN definition, but we made reference to the law, and we made reference to responses from our own respondents of what they think what hate speech is. If you read the report, you will see that local context and local definitions are all included in the report.
Hate speech is not just a legal issue. It is legal, but also it's a moral and societal issue. And we believe, as an NHRC, that you are the people who can help us crush this menace. You are the people that can hold this country together. I want to thank you again, and thank you everyone, the imams, the reverend fathers, the pastors, the traditional leaders, everybody for coming. Assalamu alaikum.